Hi everybody, it's Peter Zellens, Griniflix Adventure. Welcome to another video. I'm here with the ZF, Nikon Zf, and the 26mm f2.8 lens. I'm at the Biennale Art Festival here in Rozelle in Sydney, Australia. So, this is new. I have a whole bunch of Nikon gear, and the ZF's been out for about 6 months, and I was enticed to get one. In this case here, it's the sepia brown version. I think these colors are all personal taste, and this was on special. Same price as the black version, so well, I thought I'd go for something different. Okay, so I'm putting the 26mm 2.8 f2.8 lens to the test. I had a choice of getting a couple of lenses for this camera. The 40mm f2, the SE version, which is more sort of a classic look, and also the standard 40mm f2. I do actually have the 40mm f2 already, so one thing I did notice about this Pancake lens, well, besides being very small, it is weather sealed, as opposed to the 40mm one is not weather sealed, so there's a big difference. This is more expensive, the 26mm f2.8 compared to the f2. But being that little bit wider, that makes it interesting, I think. Alright, so having an art festival is perfect for taking photographs, and I'm sort of putting the lens through its paces, I suppose. Alright. Oh, just a quick note, while you're watching this video, I'm not sure whether you knew, but I'm associated with a number of companies, and those companies can provide discounts to my viewers and subscribers. So all you need to do is go to adventure8.com.au, just click on the website. Yes, just go shop discounts, and you find all the different companies that I'm associated with. So for example, SwiftX, so you can set up a crypto exchange and get $10 worth of free Bitcoin. iTECHWORLD for camping, lithium batteries, backup systems for your home. REDTIGER for dash cams, BOUNUS electric bikes, and all sorts of different discount levels are available, and there are discount codes associated with each one of those, whether it be Adventure 8 or something else. So just go to the website. I hope you can take advantage of the discounts, and back to the video. One of the main reasons for getting the ZF was to have a small camera that I can use for my videoing, for my YouTube channel, but also for stills as well. I do have the Leica Q2, which has been my go-to camera for this sort of activity. But the interesting thing about this lens is a little bit wider, 26mm. And I think the videoing and the autofocus associated with the ZF is better than the Q2. That's probably the main reason. Yeah, so it's got a flip out screen, which is great. So what I have to remember is to look at the lens and not at the flip out screen. Otherwise it looks weird, because if I look at the flip out screen, I'm not looking at the lens. Alright, so it's great to be able to film with the ZF. And now with the touch screen, it means that I can actually obviously focus on myself, but then I can touch the screen and focus on the background as well, and keep on talking and vlogging, which is great, having this touch out screen, and then come back to me and have the eye detect working as well. That's a big bonus. I don't have any flip out screen cameras at this stage, so that is a big bonus to have this camera. I'm super impressed with the Nikon Zf, and I'm quickly learning the things that I like about it. Having the flip out screen, without a doubt, is fantastic, so at least I can check that I'm in focus. as well as checking my background and framing and everything. But I'm finding that I'm shooting f2.8 quite a bit because the depth of field is fantastic in most cases for the 26mm lens. And when I want to take close-ups, the close focus is about 25 centimeters, I think. And then I've got a choice of whether I want to stop down, go to f16. Took some shots, 2.8, 8, 16 of the same frame, so it's going to be interesting. Also flipping across to monochromes really easy because of that switch there. And yeah, so it's a really amazing camera. Getting the extra handle for the ZF from Small Rig is great because then I can put it on a tripod. It's got the Arc Swiss base already. So. Alright, so we've got a training session going on here. It's amazing. What other things can I tell you about the Pancake Lens? It's tiny. It's compact. It fits in any bag. It's the whole camera setup is a little bit larger than a phone, I guess. Actually, let's see how it handles the low light around here. Getting access to all the little buttons and aperture, f-stop, shutter speed, ISO, exposure compensation, all dials everywhere for that, which is perfect. So you don't have to go through menu systems to find stuff. Even better. Well, I think about all the other things I like about the camera. Its weight, yes. So it's compact. It's with the lens, I think it comes in at about 900 grams, 880 or thereabouts, which is very manageable, so you don't get a tired arm or anything. I do have a strap on there right now, the one that was supplied with the ZF. I might just get the Peak Design tabs, and that way I can remove the strap whenever I like. I've got the Nikon Z9, which is a huge camera. What I love about the Z9 is it's got that massive battery, so when I'm doing videoing of any length of time, I don't have to worry about the battery running out of charge. Yes, you can obviously connect up to a power supply, which I could do, and I might try that with the ZF here as well to see whether that overcomes the battery limitations. Yeah, and if I'm taking out my big telephoto lenses, then chances are, if I'm prepared to carry that weight, then I'm happy to go with the Z9. I do have the 100 to 400 Z lens, which isn't that heavy. It's actually quite compact, so I imagine that's going to work quite well with this camera as well. And I've recently got the 2x converter there. I'll be doing a review on that also in upcoming videos. Alright, well, let's have a look at some photos in Lightroom. So how good is the 26mm lens? Well, I put it up against a bunch of other lenses. So I put it up against the Q2 28mm f1.7 lens, and also I pulled out some of my Nikon lenses, an old AIS 24mm manual lens, the Z lens 24-70 f2.8, and the 24-70 f4 lens. So I've got a whole bunch of images here. So maybe I'll start with the conclusion. The conclusion is the 26mm lens is close to 24mm lens. It's outstanding quality. It's up amongst the best. So let's have a look at some of the comparisons which supports my conclusion. I've got the Nikon Z on the left here with the 26mm lens at 2.8, and then as a comparison I've got the Leica Q2 28mm f1.7 lens, but at 2.8 also, and I've adjusted the exposure slightly. I took the raw files and then converted them to JPEG so they're the same size as well. And so if we zoom in, and just at a first glance there seems to be more detail in the Leica Q2. However, I had to redo the test but because I got a better image the second time I did the test with the 26mm FZ. But anyway, for this comparison I wanted to see what the framing was like, how much, what 24mm, what 26 is like to 28, for example. And the 26 was a little bit wider than 28. But I also know that the Leica 28 is wider than 28. I think it's closer to 26 itself. So I was sort of suspecting that the 26mm Z lens, the Nikon Z lens, is closer to 24mm rather than 26. I mean, we're only playing with numbers here, but there's a psychological thing about having a 24mm lens or a 28mm lens, and 26 number just seems so weird. So I visualize this 26mm lens as a 24, and you'll see what I mean a bit later on. So besides the detail of the Z lens here, we'll come back to that. I wanted to see what the corners were like, and look, there's a bit of a drop off, but not that much, but there is some vignetting going on, so it's a bit darker in the corners than it is than the Q2. The Q2 is stopped down from 1.7 to 2.8, and that probably explains that as well. So I did the test again. So there's the Q2 image there at 2.8, and now also I've had to reframe a little bit the ZF camera with a 26mm lens. But then if we sort of zoom in and we have a closer look, and we can see that basically they are on par to each other. It's hard to tell them apart with regards to detail and contrast and other things you look for in a high quality lens. So all in all, I'm saying that basically they're much the same. And I'm zoomed in at 200% here. And then if we go to the corners again, yes, same sort of thing, more vignetting going on in the Z lens, being wide open, and the Leica Q2 actually stopped down. But the details in the corner are much the same. So I know the Q2 lens, the Summilux lens, is one of the best. So this is matching that. So really impressed with the Nikon 26mm lens. If we go to the other corner, you see what I mean as well. Besides the vignetting, a lot of detail. Can't complain about it whatsoever. So how does the 26mm lens stack up against the other Z lenses as well as the AIS lens? We've got the 26mm lens on the left, and we've got the 24mm to 70 f2.8 S lens on the right, set at 24mm. And we have a closer look. And look, this is again at 200%. It's very hard to tell them apart. You know, you might say, I can't tell them apart. They are so close again. If we go to the edges, I think this is where the 24-70 f2.8 lens exceeds. It's less vignetting and a lot more detail in the corners. Well, a little bit more detail. This again, 200%, a little bit more detail. So if we sort of go back out, you can't tell the difference between the two when we're just looking like that. But you know, zoomed right in, we can see the difference. There is more detail in the 24-70 f2.8 lens, which is one of Nikon's best lenses. Not only as a prime, this is a zoom lens, but it compares, you know, favorably against even prime lenses. And yeah, so that's the center again. If we go to the other side, you'll see exactly the same thing. The 24-70 is outstanding, and the 26mm lens, Pancake Lens, does a great job. All right, let's have a look at the 24-70 f4. We've got the 26mm lens on the left and the 24-70 f4s lens on the right. So again, zoomed in 200%. Here, you know, we're looking at the 26mm lens. Actually, it looks a bit more detailed than the actual 24-70 f4 lens. So that's interesting. If we move to the corners, let's see what's happening there. The clarity is much the same, and the contrast is much the same. A little bit less vignetting on the zoom lens, but you know, very similar. So yep, the 26mm lens is as good, if not better, actually, than the 24-70 f4 lens. Okay, so we've got the 26mm lens on the left here, and now we've got this old 24mm f2.8 AIS manual lens that would have been manufactured 30-40 years ago. So we'll have a look at the center here, and I'd say probably a little bit more detail contrast in the 26mm lens than the old manual lens. The manual lens I am focusing manually. So I had a couple of goes at this, so that should be pretty close to the mark. If we go to the edges here, the 26mm lens has more detail. There is more drop off with the old AIS lens, which I was expecting also, a bit softer on the edges and the corners. But it's pretty close to the mark. They're not too dissimilar in the corners. So the old AIS lens is doing a really good job also. So the best lens out of all those comparisons is the Nikon 24-70 f2.8 S lens, and at 24mm. But if we look at now the 26mm lens, but we'll look across the different apertures and see how things change. So for example, if we go from f2.8 to f4, how much of a difference is there between those two? So if we have a closer look here, so 2.8 is on the left and f4 is on the right. So I wouldn't expect much difference, but then, okay, without expectations, all right? There is very little difference between f2.8 to f4. So what that means is with the f2.8, 26mm lens, you can shoot wide open all the time at 2.8 and not worry about it. So conserve your light, be able to, so you can shoot in lower light, maintain a lower ISO number, and a higher shutter speed as well. So when you stop down, then you start to improve the vignetting, and this darkness here on the left here starts to get a bit lighter, which you would expect as well. When we compare the f4 to 5.6, you can see it gets a little bit lighter again, 5.6 to f8, and then it really stabilizes out. It's very hard to tell the difference between the two there now. And at 5.6, so that's 5.6 on the left, f8 on the right, You can see there's so much detail, it's good contrast all over the place, all over the image. A lot of detail right to the corners. It's outstanding. So the interesting thing I also looked at was, well, okay, if we're saying that 5.6 to f8 is the best aperture to use, let's use 5.6 here and compare it to f16 and see what happens once you stop it right down and whether you start to lose some detail stopping right down, which you do. Most lenses do this as soon as you get this diffraction occurring at very high aperture numbers, so very small openings, and you can see that you start to lose some of the contrast that you have at 5.6. So even at 5.6 you get much better edge to edge sharpness than you do at f16. And if we compare at 2.8 versus f16, and let's have a look. You can see 2.8, at f2.8 you get a much better image than you do get at f16. It's good to know. And I did this test amongst all those lenses and it's consistent. You're better off shooting wide open than you are stopping right down. So we go right to the corners here, same sort of thing, at 2.8 on the left, f16 on the right here. And you get a better image with 2.8. With vignetting, you can always control that later on in post-processing. So yes, the f16 will give you a greater depth of field, but you end up actually losing some of the detail in the process. Let's have a closer look at these photographs in Lightroom. I have done quite a bit of editing here and there, and but we can have a closer look here. So there's a lot of light we can pull up in the FZ. It has the same process, I understand, as the Z9. FZ, the ZF, I mean. And the 28mm lens does an outstanding job. So I've brought up all the highlights here, and it's quite amazing, actually. A little bit of fringing in the background here, you can see with the green fringing, but very, very little. It's hardly noticeable at all. And here again with the high contrast light, backlit and everything, it's the lens is stacking up really well. And I was shooting mainly 2.8. I'm pretty sure this is f2.8. Yep, 2.8. And you can see how much detail there is zooming right in here. As we, yeah, it's just incredible amount of detail that you get with the 26mm lens, but I think it's 24mm, even right up to the corners here. You can see the detail in the roof and the insulation and all the framing that's around the place. So here I'm zoomed in at 200%. Took 3 shots here, close up on the eye, just so you can see what the bokeh looks like in the distance. So you can just see from the lights here, just some of the bokeh balls that are there. And then as we move to mid-ground focus, and then back focus on the subject right at the back here. And then your foreground is out of focus, and there's all those fairy lights that were there before. Yes, it's great. It's a fantastic lens. Look, we've focused right here in on these little faces here. And yeah, the 26mm lens is outstanding. You can see, take advantage of close focus. So it focuses right down to 20 centimeters. And you get a nice bokeh background when you get really close to your subject. Reversing the subject here so you can read it. Huddersfield. Yeah, I'll try to get you can see the projection. The projector is up there and it's projecting an image here. So I got it in here in the corner. I wanted to see what impact there is in having this bright light, like a sun almost. And you got, it's these nice effects again. It's at f2.8. again, lots of detail. My focus was on this lady here, so then the focus drops off towards the background as you would expect. Yeah, but the great thing about shooting in a art festival is that usually the curators have put lighting all in the right place. You've got nice, even, interesting lighting. This old power station was fantastic for exhibiting works of art, but then, you know, the power station itself is quite amazing to photograph with all the colors and the unusual shapes. So I was most impressed with the Biennale exhibition here in Sydney. It's running, I think, to the end of June if people are interested in attending. So here we're shooting at f2.8 and then f16, so you can see the depth of field. Back to shooting at f2.8. And yes, there's yours truly. Sometimes I'm in the photograph. But yeah, fantastic. Really happy with the lens. And you can create all sorts of interesting effects, knowing that you can shoot wide open and not be concerned about bright lights and still have the full colors. It's great. The ZF also has a switch that you can just switch to monochrome. So you can have the RAW file as well as a JPEG file in color, then switch to monochrome, and then you get the JPEG file in monochrome. And there's a number of settings there that you can have and change that as you like. So monochrome again, color, monochrome, color, monochrome, and then the color version as well. Yeah, so here I was underneath this platform here. I wanted to get the focus of the roof, the ceiling here. So I was using manual focus. That's you can then use the plus minus buttons on the back of the camera to actually zoom in and manually focus. So here I'm focusing actually on the insulation on the underside of the roof. So everything will be in the foreground will be out of focus. And then I've changed the exposure, just mucking about there. And then focusing in on this grid here, which was the closest thing to me, just as a comparison again. Yeah, so really impressed with the lens, really impressed with the camera, easy to use, easy to get access to the controls. Okay, just an unusual shot here. I've actually put a Voigtlander 15mm lens on this one, on the ZF. And yeah, so it actually creates a nice wide angle lens image as well. Yeah, so long and the short of it is, I'm impressed with the ZF. It will complement my Nikon cameras, it will complement the Z9. And it's an alternative when I don't want to use the Leica cameras, which I like using all cameras. So it gives me another choice. The 26mm is more like a 24mm lens, was the other conclusion. And so highly recommended. It's weather sealed. So the FZ scores top marks, as well as the 26mm Pancake lens for being compact. Its weight is, the lens and camera is a little bit heavier than the Leica Q2. Right, so long and short of it is, the detail, the images are fantastic, up there amongst the best lenses. So the only reason why, the main reason for choosing the Pancake lens is it's its size, and you get the quality of some of the best lenses available. Perfect. And yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, then give it a thumbs up. That's how you support the channel. Just give it a thumbs up. If it's the first time to my channel, you haven't already subscribed, then do subscribe, press notifications, you'll be notified when the next video is out. Thanks again for watching, look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.